Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining us today for the Books Are the Basis Week Festival. In this video, we have the opportunity to hear from His Grace Vamsivadana Prabhu and Kamalalochan Prabhu on the Krishna book. I hope that this podcast will inspire you more to read Srila Prabhupada's books every day. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and access hundreds of such inspirational videos. And if you know a friend who is keen on this topic of reading Srila Prabhupada's books regularly, invite them too. So now on to the video. All glories to the Krishna book.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Vihari.
Hare Krishna, Vamsivadana Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
We are going to have discussion about Krishna book, the sweetest of all the books Srila Prabhupada has written. And Srila Prabhupada wanted this book to be read by all devotees before they go to sleep so that they can have dreams of Krishna. And we'll start our discussion with a small prayer. Pamagyadivrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupak Damayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganagunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishnapadan Saganadita Shvishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So welcome you and welcome all the devotees who are watching this show, this video. We are fortunate that the book reading ministry has asked us to discuss something on Krishna book. And it is most inspiring to me, and of course, it's inspiring to you also, that they have chosen us to talk something about this book. So the format which I had proposed to you, as you know, Vamsivadana Prabhu, that I will be asking a question and you will ask a question. So it will be like a Bodhayantaha Parasparam Katayantastamam Nityam Tushyanti Charamanti Cha. When Krishna Premarupa Prabhu, he asked me, then I remembered this verse. He told it should be discussion, it cannot be interview. It's not just some monologue kind of thing. Then I remembered this verse, Tushyanti Ramanchi. This is what actually a prayojana.
Right.
So we'll start with our question. My question to you is, I would like you to narrate few pastimes or share few pastimes which you like the most, which Srila Prabhupada had with Krishna book, in a sense of writing it, publishing it, distributing it, printing it, and like that. His attachment for Krishna book, and that is what share a few things about it.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you for this wonderful question, and definitely this will help me to remember and dive deep into these wonderful pastimes of Srila Prabhupada in bringing out this most important Krishna book to the entire world. As far as the initial publishing of the Krishna book is concerned, we know that how Srila Prabhupada, he wanted $19,000 for the publishing of the Krishna book. And Srila Prabhupada definitely thanks George Harrison for giving this donation of $19,000. He thanks him towards the end of his preface. Srila Prabhupada writes, "My grateful acknowledgement is due to Sriman George Harrison now chanting Hare Krishna for his liberal contribution of $90,000 to meet the entire cost of printing this volume. May Krishna bestow upon this nice boy further advancement in Krishna consciousness. So Srila Prabhupada is expressing his gratitude to George Harrison for those $19,000. And so that brings us to the pastime of how George Harrison gave the $19,000. At that time, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, he was cultivating the Beatles and especially George Harrison in London. So he received a request from Srila Prabhupada to request George Harrison to donate this $19,000 for the Krishna book printing and publishing. Shyam Sundar Prabhu, he was thinking, how can I ask this $19,000 from George Harrison? Because George Harrison may think, so many people come to me and ask for donations. And now this Hare Krishna people are also one of such people who are just coming and begging some money from me. And so he was afraid that the friendship would be affected if he asked the donation of $19,000. And so he was actually very hesitant to ask those $19,000, but Srila Prabhupada had requested. So then Shyam Sundar Prabhu, on one particular occasion, George Harrison had invited him and some few other devotees for dinner. And so the dinner was got, they were having dinner, and it was a nice occasion. And this question was lurking in Shyam Sundar Prabhu's mind. Should I ask him for those $19,000 or no? Will it break the friendship? What will happen? Should I ask? Should I not ask? Should I ask? Should I not ask? This dilemma was going on in his mind. And the dinner was done. Everything was done. The plates were taken away. And the entire program was going to come to a close. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu was still thinking, should I ask? Should I not ask? But then, because it was the instruction of Srila Prabhupada, he finally asked the question. He told them, my spiritual master is writing this beautiful book on Lord Krishna's pastimes, and he needs $19,000. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu was looking at George Harrison, and he saw the expression and the color on his face change. And George Harrison didn't seem to be very pleased with that. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu was afraid. He was thinking, oh, no. And just at that moment, in a most mystical way, there was a storm and there was a power cut. Oh. All the lights went off. It was pitch dark. And Shyam Sundar Prabhu says it was absolutely silent, almost as if we could hear each other's breath. And that power cut lasted just for a few seconds. And after a few seconds, the power came back, the lights came on, and Shyam Sundar Prabhu was looking at George Harrison's face, lit up with a big smile. And George Harrison says, the check is yours. The $19,000 is yours. So what happened during those few seconds of the power cuts was Krishna's special orchestration to induce George Harrison to give those $19,000 to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's, his pure devotees' earnest desire to bring out the Krishna book and glorify Krishna. And so definitely Krishna orchestrated that beautiful pastime, so mystical, so amazing. But then finally, Srila Prabhupada got those $90,000 for the printing of the Krishna book.
Right, wonderful.
Yeah, that's a most amazing pastime.
And describe very dramatically also this pastime.
If you allow me, can I tell one more pastime in relation to this?
Yes.
So, every year at Los Angeles, there is a Prabhupada festival. And every year the organizers get Srila Prabhupada's disciples and they discuss many Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. So in one particular year recently, they had invited all the previous BBT painters for this Prabhupada festival. I think it's Prabhupada Reunion Festival, something like that. So all the BBT painters and those who had helped with the printing of Srila Prabhupada's books in the early days, they had gathered. And so these devotees were describing how they had painted the pictures for the Krishna book. So when Srila Prabhupada requested these devotee painters to print the pictures, now the devotees the Krishna book had not come out. So obviously they didn't know the pastimes. And if they didn't know the pastimes, how are they going to do the painting? So Srila Prabhupada requested and gave them some titles and told them to paint. But because they didn't know the pastime, they didn't know how to paint. So they went and asked Srila Prabhupada, we just can't understand how to do these paintings. Can you please give us some hints, some help? So then Srila Prabhupada said, okay. So for each painting, he gave a short write-up of the pastime and he gave line diagrams.
Oh.
You know what are line diagrams?
Yeah.
So line, just so that devotees may know what are line diagrams. So a line diagram means a person is shown like this. Is it visible?
A little bit up, you can just take it up.
So just like lines.
Yes.
Like lines, a line diagram.
Yeah.
So Srila Prabhupada drew some line diagrams like that and gave it to them. So for each pastime, some brief description and such diagrams. But even with that, they could not understand because practically these devotees never heard of Krishna, didn't hear of any Krishna's pastimes. So it was still very difficult for them to make these paintings. So again, they said, Srila Prabhupada, we find it very difficult. What can we do? Then Srila Prabhupada told them that you sit in front of the canvas and with a brush, and then you chant the holy names.
Oh.
You chant the holy names and pray to the Lord, my dear Lord, our spiritual master has given us this instruction. Please give us the intelligence and the ability to paint. That full faith in Srila Prabhupada. And that's what they did. And all these painters, they shared this common realization that as they sat in front of the canvas to paint, they chanted the holy names and prayed. And as they began to paint, it was as if somebody else was moving their hand.
Jai.
All of them have the same realization. And all of them are convinced of this fact. They say, we did not paint them. We did not paint them. Somebody else painted. We only kept our hand over there and somebody was moving this hand. This was the realization of all these painters. And so we find that that's how, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, these painters had been empowered to come up with such beautiful paintings in the Krishna book. And as we know now, these are some of the world famous best paintings of Krishna's pastimes. Even so many outside organizations actually use these paintings of the BBT. And so that's how these devotees have been empowered by their sincerity to render this beautiful service for Srila Prabhupada. And regarding how Srila Prabhupada relished reading the Krishna book, Shrutikiti Prabhu explains that how in Los Angeles, there's Srila Prabhupada's garden, and every evening, Srila Prabhupada would come, sit there, and then he would tell a devotee to read Krishna book. That was the daily event that would take place, and a few devotees would be sitting around Srila Prabhupada, and some devotees from the windows and balconies, they would be watching, because everyone was so eager to see Srila Prabhupada hearing Krishna book. And Shrutakirti Prabhu describes one day, he described the pastime of Balaram killing Vivida gorilla. And as Srila Prabhupada was listening to this pastime, Shrutakirti Prabhu was reading, and he's describing the pastime, and Srila Prabhupada is in so much of ecstasy. He is slapping his arms, he's slapping his legs, and he's just absorbed in the pastime. He's laughing and laughing and laughing like a small child. And how Srila Prabhupada was relishing hearing this Krishna book. And that was happening every day. And so next day, again, Srila Prabhupada comes to hear, and again, Shrutakirti Prabhu is told to read. So Shrutakirti Prabhu is thinking, yesterday Srila Prabhupada enjoyed this Vivida gorilla pastime. So today also I should read some other pastime of Krishna and Balaram killing some demon, which will put Srila Prabhupada into ecstasy. And so Shrutakirti Prabhu begins to turn the pages of Krishna book to find out which pastime should I read. And seeing that Srila Prabhupada says, read any pastime. And then Srila Prabhupada says, the Krishna book is like a rasgulla. Anywhere you eat, it's sweet. And so in this way, Srila Prabhupada so much relished reading Krishna book and Krishna's pastimes, and he would be absorbed in these beautiful pastimes of Krishna. So these are some few thoughts on this first question. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful. It's very revealing that these are something very secrets, which is, I don't think they are written down. These pastimes are not written down anywhere. Because you must have heard from Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Especially Srila Prabhupada telling the painters, saying that you just keep your hand, chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and things will happen. It shows Srila Prabhupada had so much of faith in the Hare Krishna Mahamantra that the holy name has Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, Parikara. Leela is in the holy name. I think this is one of the reasons he starts the introduction with Krishna, 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 Krishna.
Yes.
Hey, chant Hare Krishna and everything is revealed.
Right.
All the pastimes are revealed. Leela manifests to the holy name. And Srila Prabhupada also, I remember that he has told that these paintings are the windows to the spiritual world.
Right.
And practically Krishna himself entered the heart of these painters and opened the windows to the spiritual world. So very, very wonderful and very interesting. You told about these three pastimes of Srila Prabhupada with George Harrison, and how the painters, and the third pastime also, that Srila Prabhupada relishing and saying that Krishna book is like a rasgulla. Actually, one of the great devotees or disciples of Srila Prabhupada, who was a Bhagavata Rasika, his holiness Srila Radha Govind Das Goswami Maharaj, he compares his Bhagavatam to be like a batasha kind of thing, and sweet sugar candies. You eat from top or bottom anywhere, it's always sweet.
Right.
So the 10th canto, 12th canto, or 1st canto, Bhagavatam is Bhagavatam. So this is what a wonderful realization you share.
Right.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
So just like Srila Prabhupada was relishing these pastime of Balaram killing Vivida gorilla and all these pastimes. Of course, all pastimes are wonderful, but do you also have some favorite pastimes which you really relish? Krishna's pastimes, Brahma's pastimes from Krishna book, and why specifically you have some pastimes like this?
It is a little bit comical and mystical. The first book which I ever read of Prabhupada was Science of Self-Realization. Then the second book was Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, because I asked, somebody told when I went to Mayapur, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I asked, what is the philosophy, what are the teachings of Chaitanya? Then he gave the book. Then it was in Calcutta, our college used to take it from the library and then give it back. So I read the entire book in a couple of weeks and gave back. So Krishna book, I read it, maybe after 6 to 7 months of being in connection with ISKCON. I read it because somebody told me, or in one of the classes I was sitting, maybe in Mayapur, the speaker told that Prabhupada said you should not read the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. One should not jump to the 10th canto of Bhagavatam directly. And especially people read the Rasa Leela in the 10th canto. I just knew, just chanting 2 rounds, and a very naughty person. So generally naughty children, they explore things which which they are specifically told not to do. It's natural tendency. So very confidential, you should not do. Then you will do that only.
Right.
So then that is the time I went to the library in Calcutta. We had a youth firm library. I got the Krishna book. And I searched out the chapter Rasa Leela. I wanted to know what is there in that. Somehow, I read that thing and it felt so nice. Huh? What is so confidential about? Very nice. It is very nice. Why are they asking not to read this thing? So as many years passed by, I was wondering, whenever this subject matter comes, one should not directly come to the 10th canto. One should not, people, unscrupulous people, they just talk about Rasa Leela. So then I opened the Rasa Leela description of Srila Prabhupada in 10th canto, or in the Krishna book, and see that how Srila Prabhupada very mystically, I would use the word mystically, he has interwound the rasa in the ras with the philosophy, so that people would not mistake this Rasa Leela to be another dance form of this world, or a man-woman interaction. So that is the expertise of Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
If you read any other description of Radha Krishna pastimes by anyone else, Acharyas, late Acharyas, they are not concerned about common man.
Right.
They just gave Ras, that's all. Adhikari people, they'll read, that's all. They gave as it is. But Srila Prabhupada gave the highest thing, Ras, even to the lowest person in the form of Krishna book. That is specialty of Srila Prabhupada.
Right.
Actually, from that time onwards, my appreciation for Srila Prabhupada became more and more because the expertise in which he is presented. Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the highest thing to the lowest person. So the highest thing, it is Ujjvala Prema Rasa, Unnatojjvala Rasa, Anarpita Charinchirat, Karunyavat Kiranakru, Samarpayatum Unnata Ujjvala Rasa. He gave Unnata Ujjvala Rasa to those who are in Kali Yuga.
Right.
In the same way, Srila Prabhupada's mercy is he gave the Unnata Ujjvala Rasa in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, the Rasa Panchadhyaya, in such a way that even a lusty person, common person, would appreciate without doing an offense. So in one sense, from that time onwards, this Rasa Panchadhyaya is my favorite of all the chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. And another subject matter which was of my interest was when in the beginning days of my Krishna consciousness, while I was going to Mayapur temple, I was sitting in one Bhagavatam class. Then the speaker was speaking about Brahma Vimohana Leela, and then told that many acharyas, the Madhva Sampradaya, the Vallabhas, don't accept it to be a real pastime. So again, this thought process came to me. Why they don't accept it? So this why is like a worm in my mind. So it maybe just at the ending of my engineering career. So that is then the time I took the Krishna book again. I never read the Krishna book entirely. I just read those 5 chapters. And then the second chapter, which I read, was the 13th and the 14th chapter, Brahma Vimohana and the prayers of Brahma. So actually, generally what happens is you fall in love with those things which you get acquainted for the first time.
Right.
So these are the 2 chapters, 2 pastimes, Brahma Vimohana Leela and Rasa Panchadhyaya. These were the 2 chapters which were selectively read. And the inspiration to read was not any rasa or something like that. Why we should not why we should not read Rasa Panchadhyaya? This was one reason. For the Brahma Vimohana Leela, why Srila Prabhupada added these 2 chapters? Acharya like Madhva and the Madhva Sampradaya and I would not say Madhvacharya himself, the Madhu Sampradaya and Vallabha, even Ramanujas, when they don't accept these two chapters to be part of Bhagavatam, and they don't even accept that these past tense happened ever. So from that time onwards, these two chapters became most relishable for me. Even practically every Janmashtami I have some class in a temple. So in the past 25 years, at least for 5 years, I would have taken this chapter of Brahma Mohan Lila and 2-3 kathas of Brahma Mohan Lila, plus the prayers of Brahma. Prayers of Brahma are very long, and the kind of tattva Brahma speaks with the rasa which he's experiencing, it is immense. And interestingly, this is the last chapter, 30th chapter, that Prabhupada gave commentary on.
Yes.
And that became more. I became very. I did not knew that. Know that before. I came to know after joining ISKCON, after 4 or 5 years after joining ISKCON. And then in one of the classes, I heard Prabhupada give commentary to Bhagavatam, 10th canto, only about the 13th chapter. Then became more. I became very happy. Hey, this is the chapter which I like the most.
So
and
just
also,
yes,
one last point about this thing. In Brahma, we belong to Brahma Sampradaya, and talking about the Vimohana of our Acharya. And his realization of sweetness of Krishna and talking about Mahavishnu in the prayers, rasa and tattva's amalgamation is very wonderful in those prayers. That is my two pastimes which I relish most.
So just on that point, so would you recommend new devotees to read this Ras Leela chapters from Krishna book? So it's safe for them to read. Sometimes devotees have doubts.
Yeah, it's a very difficult question to answer because it will be my answers will be a little controversial. The point is that there are some systems to be followed. That is gradually first canto, second canto, and we have our system set up also in ISKCON by different temples, presidents, education board. You read the Bhagavad-Gita, then that and this. And then Bhagavad-Gita is undergraduate study, Bhagavatam is the graduate study, and Chaitanya is the postgraduate study. But practically, the first book which I read was the postgraduate study, that is Chaitanya Charitamrita, that is Chaitanya, teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So I would put it in this way. Reading the Ras Panchadhyay directly from the Bhagavatam, that is not very much recommended. But the same thing when Srila Prabhupada is presented in the Krishna book, there's nothing wrong in reading that, because he has put the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita and keeps us safe, keeps our consciousness safe, and keeps our philosophy safe. And at the same time, we can experience the same rasa. So in this way, I would answer with a dual thing, that is not to go to the 10th canto Ras Panchadhyay directly, but if somebody is reading the Krishna book, and he can do it very well.
So it was very wonderful to hear these, how you got in touch with this Ras Leela and Brahma Mohan Leela, and really relished. So definitely, I think so. Yes, for devotees to read, even new devotees reading Krishna book is always safe, because Srila Prabhupada very expertly intertwines the philosophy with the pastimes.
Yeah. So coming back to my other question to you, that is Srila Prabhupada, he dedicates his different books to different. He dedicated Bhagavatam to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and he dedicated Bhagavad Gita to Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu. And interestingly, he dedicates Krishna book to his father, Gaur Mohan Dev. Why he did it? What was going on in Srila Prabhupada's mind? Just a speculation.
So my thoughts on that is, first of all, I would just like to read what Srila Prabhupada wrote here. So he dedicates the book to my father, Gaur Mohan Dev, 1849 to 1930. A pure devotee of Krishna who raised me as a Krishna-conscious child from the beginning of my life. In my boyhood ages, he instructed me how to play the mridanga. He gave me Radha Krishna Vigraha to worship, and he gave me Jagannath Rath to duly observe the festival as my childhood play. He was kind to me, and I imbibed from him the ideas later on solidified by my spiritual master, the Eternal Father. So this is what Srila Prabhupada has written at the beginning of the Krishna book. And so my thoughts on that would be that the reason why he's dedicating to his father, Gauramonde, because that is what he received from his father, those initial impressions. And as Srila Prabhupada himself describes, and as written by Satsvarup Maharaj in the Srila Prabhupada Leelamrit, so in his childhood, as a small child, he would wake up to the ringing of bells by his father worshipping the Radha Krishna deities. And later on, we find that how his father allowed him to have the small Jagannath Rath Yatra festival amongst his friends. And so therefore, Srila Prabhupada is very grateful to his father for giving him those initial impressions of Krishna worship and also the attachment to Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, which he received from his father. Of course, we do understand that Srila Prabhupada, in one sense, has always been a pure devotee, but then at least in this Leela, we do find that his father gave him those initial impressions and gave him that initial encouragement for him to worship Krishna. And as we know that his father would invite many sadhus to their house, and the sadhus would come and have prasadam. And as they would be leaving, his father would request them to please bless his child, Abhay, so that he becomes a wonderful devotee of Srimati Radharani. And so his father would ask these sadhus to give blessings. And so for all these various reasons, I feel that Srila Prabhupada is very grateful to his father, so that for him, for giving that conducive atmosphere for him to take up the Radha Krishna worship and Krishna consciousness. And that's eventually what manifested as ISKCON, the Krishna consciousness movement, and ultimately the writing of the Krishna book. So these are my thoughts on that. If you would like to add something on that.
Yeah, same thing. The point which struck to me was that Srila Prabhupada, he remembers that my father's mercy is that he asked the sadhus to give the mercy of Srimati Radharani to me. And it is only because of her mercy that I am able to write this Krishna book.
Yes.
He is expressing his humility at the same time, thinking about that particular time when some sadhus would have come and definitely given mercy of Radharani to me. And that is the reason I am able to write this book. He is expressing, he's thinking about his father, right, and all the childhood sanskaras which he got from his father of being a great devotee. And it's only because of Srimati Radharani's mercy, somebody can give a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam and can give a actually the summary study of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Right.
And that's what it is.
And just to add a point, I think so this also brings out Srila Prabhupada's wonderful quality of both humility and gratitude. How he's feeling grateful to his father for giving him those initial sanskars.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be the benefits of devotees regularly reading and absorbing themselves in these beautiful pastimes of Krishna and Balaram and the Krishna book?
Yeah, benefits, if you count them, they're innumerable. In the sense that that is our prayojana. And Krishna is unlimited, Krishna is unlimited, benefits are unlimited. But I remember this verse in the first canto, the 10th canto, I think the 4th verse. Nivritya tarshay rupagiyamanat bhaushadat chottamano viramat kauttama gunanuvadat puman virajet vinapashubhnat. So there, Srila Parikshit Maharaj, he actually gives 4 reasons why I want to hear about Krishna. And the first reason he mentions in this particular verse, the first reason he says that I want to hear about Krishna is because if I don't hear about Krishna, I'll be a Kasai, I will be a butcher. Pashugnath. I don't want to be butcher. In one sense, he goes to such an extent of saying, if those who don't read Krishna book or hear pastimes of Krishna, they are butchers. They are butchering their own life. It's such extreme. If you speak it out in public, somebody may say, "Oh, it's a secular world. Don't speak it, Prabhu," and all these things they'll say. But the fact is, it is there in the Bhagavatam.
Right.
And Pashuganath, and another meaning of the word Pashu is soul. You are actually committing suicide. You're killing yourself if you don't read Krishna book.
Right.
In other words, if you take the same thing in a different way, put it the same thing in a different format, you say, those who don't read Krishna book or don't hear about Krishna's pastimes, they are committing suicide. But you just put it in a different way, in a more in a way that it's get into the heart of the people.
Right.
It is that if you are not hearing about Krishna, if you are not reading Krishna book, better go and commit suicide while living. So basically, one should, the benefit of reading Krishna book is you will not be a butcher.
Right.
At least you're qualified to live. It gives you a qualification to live. It gives a purpose for you to live. Otherwise, what is the use? What is the use of life without hearing Krishna's pastime, without reading Krishna's pastime, reading Krishna book? And going in the same verse, if you take this Krishna book, is very interesting. Krishna's pastime is very interesting. It is beneficial to both the conditioned souls as well as the liberated souls. Not only those who are given up Krishna, they can only speak about Krishna constantly, like you, Sukadeva Goswami. But Parikshit Maharaj approaches Sukadeva Goswami like a patient would approach a doctor. Interestingly, Srila Prabhupada actually, while giving this summary study, he puts all the different points of Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur's commentary inside it. Right. It is not that he's just doing the words towards translation, like he did for Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, summary study of Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, or even teachings of Lord Chaitanya. But the speciality about the summary study of Krishna book compared to the summary study of Chaitanya Charitamrita, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, summary study of Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion, is that in this summary study of Krishna book, he makes sure that there are certain salient features of the commentary of Vishwanath Thakur is also there in that. Read the first chapter, you find Vishwanath Thakur's commentary, and in the commentary, there's some points are also included. The same way he talks in Nivritta Tarshad is also. So Parikshit Maharaj is going to Sukadeva Goswami and says, I'm a patient. Like a patient goes to the doctor desperately. That desperate, and I'm diseased, I'm suffering. Please give the medicine. Krishna. So we are conditioned by this, by disease. With the lust, anger, greed, so many diseases are there. Bhavaroga. And the only medicine is Krishna, Krishna's pastime.
Yes.
And as we go advanced in Krishna consciousness, the same Krishna book becomes a nice, wonderful juice. It becomes a tonic. Manobiramat. So it is also Aushada, Bhavoshada, Chotra Manobirama. Aushadi also Manobirama. So in this way, the benefit of Krishna book reading is there in this particular verse. Basically, at least we get a purpose to live. Otherwise, what is use?
Yes. Yeah, beautiful points. Yeah, beautiful points. Yes, we get a purpose to live. Otherwise, it's like Atmaha, that's killing the soul, right? Like, and it's beneficial to both the conditioned souls. For conditioned souls, it's like medicine, and for the liberated souls, then it'd be like a tonic or a very relishable juice. Yeah, wonderful points. Yes, bro.
So, interestingly, Srila Prabhupada, he starts with the introduction. He starts with the words of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taken sannyas, and then he is going then to the south towards Jagannath Puri. At the time, he chants his famous Krishna, 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 Hey, Krishna, 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 Hey. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. He's in ecstasy in his chanting.
Right.
And Srila Prabhupada, he starts with this particular Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing in ecstasy, with chanting the names of Krishna. And then he starts with that. Very interesting. Why he started only he knows, but still we can speculate.
Yeah. So, yes, some philosophical speculation, I suppose. So, my understanding would be that one thing is that this is the ultimate goal of reading and relishing and diving deep into the pastimes of Krishna, to come to this point of taking shelter of Krishna and praying to him for his mercy, for his protection, and ultimately develop those feelings of separation from Krishna as exhibited by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yeah.
So only when one reads the Krishna book, then of course one gets the proper understanding of the tattva of Krishna, Krishna's position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his inconceivable pastimes, and how he performs superhuman pastimes right from his childhood. And so when one understands the tattva and one understands the Aishwari Gyan of Krishna, then that will give us inspiration and impetus to surrender and seek his protection. And then as one also reads the beautiful pastimes, then as we read about the various devotees of Krishna experiencing separation from Krishna, so then as we read all these other pastimes and we also, as we progress, we develop attachment to Krishna. Then our ultimate goal, as taught by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to come to the platform of Viraha Prem. So taking that goal, the prayojan, into consideration, I think that's the reason why Srila Prabhupada began as a
very interesting point. You give the prayojana in the beginning itself, so that the whole abhideya and some abhideya will be interesting, and they'll take it seriously, and ultimately sambandha is established. Right. So very interestingly, if you see, Srila Prabhupada gave introduction to all his books. Bhagavad-gita gave introduction, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya gave introduction. Every book, whatever. But when it came to Bhagavatam, he did not give an introduction. He just posted, today Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur's appearance day.
Yes.
Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, whatever he wrote about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, life and prospects of Chaitanya, in the same year which Srila Prabhupada was born, 1896, he sent that first copy, first publication to different parts of the world in English. Maybe it is the first printed version of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life in English language. Srila Prabhupada actually says, the year of my birth, the same year he did it. So Bhakti Thakur's mercy is there. So whatever he published, he just kept that life and prospects of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as introduction to Bhagavatam.
Correct.
So when he's writing Krishna book, he followed the same format. He say, without Chaitanya, there's no way that you can enter into Bhagavatam.
Yes.
Without Chaitanya, there's no way that you can enter into 10th canto of Bhagavatam, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna in the mode of Radharani. Yes. 10th canto is about Krishna's Madhurima, is the sweetness of Krishna. And sweetness of Krishna is presented by Chaitanya with his strictness.
Yes.
There also you can find a very nice harmony of tattva and rasa.
Yes.
Like you told about Aishwarya, the Aishwarya is the basis of Madhurya.
Yes.
And also, one of the interesting points which I was reading during Radhashmi time was actually gave you a few classes on a class on few verses of Radha Rasudhanidhi. There, Radharani's Aishwarya is being spoken. Then a commentator says, why Aishwarya is spoken? Because that becomes the patra, the vessel, in which you can bring the Madhurima, sweetness.
Right.
So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually is a combination of this. He's giving the sweetness of Krishna's pastimes, but based on the philosophy, what he spoke to Sarvamacharya, what he spoke to Prakashana Saraswati, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. In this way, Prabhupada's contemplation on Chaitanya is very much appreciated.
Yes. And yes, so we have these beautiful, very, very sweet and amazing pastimes of Krishna throughout the Krishna book. At the same time, almost towards the end of the Krishna book, there is this one chapter which almost seems to be like a little misfit, the praise of the personified Vedas. And many devotees, in fact, tend to skip this chapter. So of course, it's also part of the Lord's pastimes. But then how can devotees develop some taste to also read this chapter as one of the Krishna Leelas with the same enthusiasm and interest? Would you like to suggest some tips how one can develop the interest to read this chapter?
I'll tell my experience.
Yes.
When I went to this chapter, when I was reading Srila Prabhupada's Krishna in this chapter, in the first few times, maybe I was reading Krishna book, and I just turned to those pages. I never read that because I was not understanding also. Not even. Then it so happened that VAHE asked me to speak on the 6 systems of philosophy. So I just did some research. Then I found actually the Vedas personified, they are actually defeating the 6 systems of philosophy. And establishing the tattva. So I was just restricting myself only to that. This is Vedas, they are talking there. Vedas means they are Vedas personified. Personified Vedas, they are talking glories of Krishna. And they know what is knowledge, what is ignorance, and they're defeating ignorance knowledge. Still, I had this thing in my mind. How is this coming at the end of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, where it's full of sweetness? Like you give a rasgulla, and after giving a rasgulla to a person, you say, why didn't you drink the Karela juice because you got diabetes? Bitter juice. So it's fine. It's like good. I have diabetes and I take, but it should not be after giving rasgulla.
Right.
But around it was around few years back. It was during the time of temple opening, Miro temple opening. That is 2014-15. At that time, I was preparing for Radhastami class, and I came across. I was studying Radhara Sudhanidhi and then commentaries, and I was studying about Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, who was in Prakashananda Saraswati. He was named as Prabodhananda. Then, in one of his writings, one was Shruti Stuti Vyakhya. So I got that book and started reading that. I could not even complete one verse commentary of it. There, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur gives a commentary talking about how every verse has the highest rasa, Madhur rasa being filled in that. Because in that Vyakhya, in the entire prayers, they say we are following the footsteps of the gopis. And that is why they became gopis, Sutichari gopis.
Right.
So that became a very inspirational thing for me, but somehow I did not read the entire commentary. Only one verse. I tried it for 10 days, but no. So maybe I pray today, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and all the Vaishnavas, that one day I can cross over, at least relish some parts of this commentary of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur. Srila Prabhupada, interesting, in the first canto of Bhagavatam, first chapter, first verse itself, he says, to better relish for a CA student should read these commentaries. So, Krishna book, especially this chapter, we go on reading it. Whether you like or not, go on reading it. Don't see people learn from the mistakes. I've done mistakes. I'll confess my mistakes. That is, the sections which I don't like, I just went ahead. It's a mistake. So those who are hearing, please don't do that mistake. Because I realized that I did a mistake for at least 15 years. But when I started reading the prayers, because we were compiling prayers book for giving as a gift during the Mirror Temple opening. I told when I'm compiling and read, let me go through the prayers, their nice commentaries and all. I found the actual rasa is not in the pastime, it is in the prayer. Right. Prayer is the essence of the pastime.
Correct.
It is just because of our diseased mind, we skip through these prayers. And even though it is a diseased mind, you don't like it, do it. You like it one day.
Right.
Like actually, we are not reading, we're doing seva.
Yes,
we are doing seva to the pastime. We are doing seva to the prayers. If you leave the most important part where the devotee is actually investing all the kripa and giving to us, that is in the prayer, not in the pastime. In pastime, there is no kripa. The kripa of the devotee is in the prayer, and you have missed the point.
Yes.
So, please learn from my mistakes. And I've wasted 15 years in doing this mistake. So, other generations, next generations, please don't do this mistake. That is what I can say. Even though it is prayers of Vedas personified, actually they attained Shruti, they became Shruti-chari gopis.
Right.
So by doing so, you also become Shruti-chari gopis or some gopi or a manjari, you don't know. I cannot comment on that. The point is, you should do that.
Yeah, I think so. I must admit that even initially, even I was not reading this prayers, but recently, even I had gone through these prayers from the Krishna book, especially, and actually, I found it very interesting, actually, because especially in the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada has explained it in such a simple and lucid way, the entire philosophy, and very systematically, and so many points of philosophy become very, very clear. Actually, especially as you said, defeating the 6 systems of philosophy and all that, through such a simple and crystal clear examples, Srila Prabhupada has put down the philosophy very clearly. And actually, so then when I actually started reading it, I found it very interesting, actually. I found it very interesting. And so I think so, even though initially we may not have taste, if one goes through it, then as one reads, one will develop the interest as well.
So we conclude our session, Prabhuji, by our last question I would like to ask you. That is, please give some practical suggestions because you are a more practical person and you are heading the examination board, giving Bhakti-Shastrы certificates to everyone. And I'm more a freelancer. You're very systematic, very organized in your classes, in your presentations and all. So give some systematic practical tips to the audience and people in general so that they better lish our Krishna book. Hare Krishna.
So as far as being systematic, I really don't know how systematic I am. But as far as the Krishna book is concerned, of course, as we just heard, Srila Prabhupada said, it's like a rasgulla, you bite it from anywhere. It is going to be sweet. So I don't know if there's any systematic way of reading the Krishna book. But in any case, I think so, if we just go through the Krishna book from the beginning and go chapter by chapter, and as one reads the book, taking into consideration the special philosophical aspects which Srila Prabhupada has included along with the pastime, then I think so we can really relish the pastimes better because we also get the simultaneous blend of philosophy. To illustrate that point, I just want to read one particular paragraph from the Krishna book. This is in the chapter Putana killed, after the killing of Putana. So after that, Srila Prabhupada is giving this paragraph. I'm just reading a few sentences. Prabhupada writes, it is concluded, therefore. So this is how Putana, she tried to kill Krishna, but in spite of being envious of Krishna, she attained salvation because she gave her milk to him to drink. So what can be said of those who are affectionate to Krishna in the relationship of mother, who with great love and affection render service to him, the Supreme Personality of God and the Super Soul of every living entity? It is concluded, therefore, that even a little energy expended in the service of the Lord gives one immense transcendental profit. This is explained Bhagavad Gita, Swalpam pyasya dharmasya traite mahatobhaya. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness so sublime that even a little service to Krishna, knowingly or unknowingly, gives one the greatest transcendental benefit. The system of worshipping Krishna by offering flowers from a tree is also beneficial for the living entity who is confined to the bodily existence of the tree. When flowers and fruits are offered to Krishna, the tree that bore them also receives much benefit indirectly. And the archana process of worshipping procedure is therefore beneficial for everyone. So we can see that how in this pastime of Putana being killed also, Srila Prabhupada so beautifully blends the Bhagavad Gita philosophy and brings out such beautiful lessons. And so if we simply absorb ourselves in the Krishna book, we get a proper blend of both the philosophical aspects and the pastimes. And so we get both the understanding of the philosophy and the beautiful pastime. And I think so as we continue to read it, we can really relish it and dive deep into these pastimes. And I think so as we continue to do it, I think so we can develop more and more taste. But at the same time, I would like to hear from you. Sometimes we do get this feeling that maybe after reading twice, thrice maybe, we do get a feeling that, okay, now I know the Krishna book, I know all the pastimes, so I may not have a taste to read the book again and again, even after that. So can you suggest some ways how we can continue to maintain that interest to read Krishna book lifelong till our last breath? Because that's the ultimate goal, to ultimately absorb ourselves in remembrance of Krishna. Yam yam vapi smaranta. So would you like to say something?
Yeah. So, interestingly, something came to my mind. First, we'll speak about that before I miss the point. Before I joined ISKCON as a full-time, I was working in Merchant Navy. I had my senior engineering officer, third officer. He used to see me chanting and all these things. And he would say, I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist, I don't believe. You're an atheist, so I was not preaching to him because he's my senior. But he said, I like you, what you're doing. Appreciate what you're doing. So one day it so happened that I had come to Juhu temple because the ship was barked I was in Mumbai. Came to Juhu temple and then purchased the Krishna book and few more books and a lot of sweets and give it to him. And during the night watch, I was reading Krishna book. And I had to hand over the watch at 12 o'clock midnight to him. So he came and then told, what is this? I was taking the book along with me. He told, what is this? I told, this Krishna book. He said, anyway, I'm feeling bored. Can I read this? He told. So you can read. Anyhow, you're a atheist. But still, I would like to read. I'm a reader. So I gave the book. And then he has his watch from 12 to 4 and he goes to sleep. And again, come back at 8 o'clock in the morning. And he comes by 12 o'clock. So he came at 12 o'clock. And then he told me, thank you very much for giving such wonderful book.
Amazing.
He told, I read the entire, right from 12 o'clock. He said, I don't sleep. And it's all again 12 o'clock. I read the entire, practically 3/4 of the book.
Amazing.
Just see, he's a voracious reader, very intelligent person. And I told him, you're an atheist. How did you like this book? He told, I know God is not there. I don't believe in God. But if at all he's there, he's Krishna.
Oh, amazing.
Very interesting. If at all he's there, just see what is this? It's a totally atheistic person. He's a drunkard too. That means after reading the Krishna book, he is convinced that Krishna is God.
Yeah,
even though he's saying that if at all he's there, it is because of his conditioning.
Correct.
So that's how Krishna manifests in the form of Krishna book and attracts even the atheist and a drunkard person who openly says there's no God. And that too within 12 hours.
Amazing. That's the potency of the Krishna book.
So coming back to your point of thinking that how this pastimes of Krishna, a feeling that I know this. This is the problem. I know means gone. Krishna book is not meant to know. Bhagavad is not meant to be known, or you don't read Bhagavatam to know things, to relish.
Right.
Because Bhagavatam is Rasamalayam. And especially 10th canto is Rasa. Rasa in itself. So it is like saying, somebody gives you a Rasgulla and you take the Rasgulla and say, I know it. It's foolishness.
Right.
Rasgulla is given to you not to know about it, not to know it is sweet, it's got so much of sugar, so many grams of sugar, so much of milk. Not to know is to relish. It is good if you know this milk. Even if you don't know about it, relish it. That is most important.
Yes.
So in the 13th chapter, the same chapter which I like the most, the first verse, Sukadeva Goswami, seeing Parikshit Maharaj's eagerness to hear about Krishna, especially he asked about the pastime. It is not that Brahma Vimohan Leela was not known to Parikshit Maharaj. It was known to him. Right from childhood, he has been hearing about Krishna, playing with Krishna's deities and all. Then hearing that he wants to know the things which he has known before. He wants to hear the same thing what he knows.
Right.
So inquiry is to know things what you. This is actually tattva. You don't know, you are inquiring. But when Parikshit Maharaj is inquiring, it is not to know, it is to relish. I want to hear again. That is why he says, Sadhu Prishtam Mahabhaga Tvaya Bhagavatottama Yan Nutanasya Ishasya Shrinvan Api Kata Muhu. Shrinvan Api, you heard this Kata. But again, you want to hear it again and again. Muhu, you want to hear again and again. As if Nutanasya Ishasya. As if it is Nutana, as if it is new, you have not heard before.
Right.
And that makes you Tvaya Bhagavatottama. You're the topmost of the Bhagavata. So this is how Sukadeva Goswami has told Parikshit Maharaj, you're Bhagavatottama because you relish Krishna's pastime as if it is new. It's already more than an hour and it has been a very nice discussion. That is Bodhayantaha Parasparam Katayantaschama Nityam Tushyanti Sarvancha. How this 1 hour passed, I don't know. We're happy and thankful to Krishna Prem Rupa Prabhu for giving us this opportunity. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. It was wonderful having this wonderful discussion with you, Kamalochan Prabhu. So it was really very enlivening and a wonderful discussion on the glories of the Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Hare Krishna Book ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama.